have you all join Pledge of Allegiance. Join us. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now it's public comment. Statements by members of the public should be concise and should be limited to 3 minutes. And the individual I have for now, Ronald Gray, come on up.
Well, number one is I gave Craig a couple of pieces of paper on how to fund the schools. And the only thing I would like to say is I'd like to get $175,000 to get my plan in progress. Number two, I'm curious, some person brought education excellence and bought that for the school district. And I'm wondering why, after she bought that for $96,000 last year, how many teachers left over that? That's my number one question. And why are they leaving? And another thing, I would like to know what kind of compensation or stipends, or if anybody on this board or that works in the school district got. And I'll start off, I'm bipartisan, so I'll start off with you. Are you getting any compensation of any sort? Are you? Mrs. Stanford, are you? Stafford?
No, what makes anybody think we're getting paid?
It's a volunteer position.
Well, it's just
We get
it's
coffee.
just a question.
We get coffee at board meetings.
I guess so.
And Mrs. Elkridge, are you?
Yes, we can.
No, that's it. What about Neil?
Same as the rest of it.
Yep.
Okay, what about you? Mr. Man,
Executive office for the organization, and I receive compensation from our work.
you
He is paid a
receive
salary.
compensation?
I do.
Dude, what kind of compensation?
I'm an employee of the board.
Yes.
Right, yeah, I know you're an employee of the board, but do you get any compensation for the, trying to pass this bond?
No.
I'll look to the chair. If you'd like me to continue to engage in the conversation, I'll be glad to, but
Go
it's your
ahead,
meeting.
But I see no reason for this because, no, he's not getting any compensation. No, none of us are.
Okay. Neil, do you have any kind of license, like a Series 6 or Series 7 license?
It's my business.
Well, you're on the board, you're elected, it's public business, you're here. So I would just like to know the answer to that. I mean, you're trying to get this bond passed, not me.
I don't see the relevance.
Well, I do.
Okay, Tony, go ahead.
If I may, Mr. Gray, there's no bond that's been put before the
Well, I
voters.
know, but there's trying to be a
Let me
bond
finish my
put before
sentence.
that. I'm asking this question now.
Finish my sentence. There's a community advisory that's charged with bringing a proposal to the board, and until the board's taken action on any recommendation, there is no bond.
Well, I know that. I'm talking about in the process of bond and after the bond. I just asked him a simple question. If he don't want to answer it, that's fine with me. Just tell me you don't want to answer it.
You tell me I don't answer.
Okay, that's fine.
Time is up. Thank you. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm getting, I haven't had a Facebook yet, but I'm gonna get one. And but I.
Thank you. All right. Yes. Yes,
Someone would like
go
to
ahead and put him on. That's Mark.
Someone-
Oh, a
Say
virtual
something.
question? Oh, okay.
Yes. And as
Okay,
soon
go
as I
ahead.
can.
We're just waiting for virtual public comment from someone on the phone. So, in case you're wondering. Thanks.
Thanks,
Okay.
Dan.
And is she going to be on the?
Can you folks hear me?
Mr. Jimmy Lanahan. Okay,
Yes, we can hear you.
yeah, we can.
Okay, good evening, board members. Okay, I had a couple of topics I wanted to bounce off you guys. One's an old topic, and it's around COVID shots and volunteers at the school. And I would like to see, I don't know how much time or effort would have to go into it, but a letter to go out to ODE to maybe get that released. I myself as a parent would love to volunteer, but I did not get a COVID-19 shot. And so right now I can't without claiming a exemption that I'm not qualified for. So that's one thing I'd like to bring up. The second is around the budget committee. And I would like to urge the administration to give us guidance if budget committee members want to have proposals for the board for additions to the budget that's proposed. That's something that I haven't dealt with in my years on the budget committee. And I think maybe this year could be a year where that could come up. Other than that, you folks have a good night.
We appreciate it, Jimmy. So we're going to have presenters, and that would be Jane Reed and Lori Hall, and they're going to be talking about completion of what? Clackamas Community College. Okay, come on up and give us your presentation about what's happening with Clackamas Community College.
Subbing in for Lori Hall.
Or are you, okay? I didn't think I saw her. I was going for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having us here tonight. This is really kind of special and we enjoy this a lot.
It's good to see you again.
Nice to see you
Yeah.
too. Linda and I were at a OSBA board training 1.5 million years ago. And we both are still on the board 1.5 million years later, but
Yes, it's
Nice to see
2011.
it's 2011. Good
Yes.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So anyway, my name is Jane Reed and I have been representing Estacada and Colton and now Malala on the on the Clackamas Community College board for a long time now. And I got Malala because we redrew the zones. And
Okay.
so yay.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to have that. So I have been living in Estacada since 1977. All of my children went to school there, and I've been on the board since I think 2007. And I want to introduce Dr. Tim Cook, who is our president. He has been our wonderful president for the last 5 years. He came to us from Clark College in Vancouver, but is an Oregon City bred native, and so he's coming home and he knows the county and he knows Oregon really, really well. And we are just so happy to have him. So what we're doing here, the reason that we are here is that we're wrapping up all of our projects that were supported by a bond that we approved in 2014.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of different buildings and changes and repurposing, and it was a very exciting time. So we're going to share with you some of the highlights of what we've accomplished for our students and for our community and for workforce development. So, are you going to do it?
Yeah, I'll get started here.
Great.
Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. We do really appreciate the partnership. Superintendent Mann, we talk all the time about ways to really improve education for students in Malala. And as you know, it's the geographical distance can be a challenge, but we continue to look for ways to offer CTE programs both on our site and on your site as well as other classes. So it's nice to be here to really showcase some of the projects we've been able to do over the last 10 years or so. But I want to also just highlight the opportunities really to provide high quality higher education for students in the Wallet. So thank you. So we're going to take you through a really quick tour of a number of projects that we've been able to do since 2014. And we were able to do these because our district, Clackamas County, approved a $90 million bond back in 2014, allowing us to update these buildings and facilities in our grounds. We were able to construct 4 new buildings across our 3 campuses. Clackamas Community College has been around since 1966, and we have our Oregon City campus, but we also have a campus in Milwaukee and then a campus in Wilsonville. The Wilsonville has been since they're 92, and the one in Milwaukee's been since 88 that have been around. And so across those campuses, we were able to build 4 buildings. We were able to expand and remodel several others. We were able to improve transportation to and from around the college, and a whole lot of other aspects as well. That 90 million, we were able to get state matches for each of those 4 buildings for $8 million per building. We got matches for our transit center, and we even got grants for furniture in those buildings. So at 90 million, we were able to leverage into more than $136 million for projects at the college. So we want to kind of take you through a tour and show you some of the highlights.
Okay. First up is Harmony West, and it is in Milwaukee in the Clackamas area, and it complements our Harmony East building that had been there for, it's showing it being built. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. And it completes our Allied Health campus. And it replaces the former Dale Ickes Junior High School, which was later the home for Oregon Institute of Technology and then a few Clackamas classes. But it's a brand new construction there, and it has allowed us to increase our health sciences offerings, workforce development, and actually general education offerings in the Milwaukee area there. Students can now start and complete a number of programs right on that campus, and they don't have to travel to the Oregon City campus for classes. And it has 3 floors, and it includes classrooms and labs and a large community event space, which is really nice. It is open for the community to use, and it's a great gathering spot. It was completed in fall of 2017, and as Dr. Cook said, we received an $8 million match from the state to fund this project. And pictures of it here. It's the lobby area. And one of the things I really like about this is not necessarily in the lobby, but around it are there a lot of different spaces for students where students can gather and where they can be just a couple of people together. If they want to study with a whole group together, they can. And all of the design that was done there was with students in mind and how they learn and how they, what they need in a space. So that was great. And here's one of the labs that is there. And it's beautiful.
So this is the anatomy lab here. It's one anatomy physiology.
There's
Probably,
anatomy and
yes.
physiology
Yeah.
on the campus, so we've got chemistry labs there as well. The Harmony campus in Milwaukee is primarily healthcare, so our nursing, our medical assisting, dental assisting, phlebotomy programs are all there. But so we wanted science labs for those students to look at.
So you're gonna have a bachelor's of nursing, right?
Oh, you've heard about this?
Well, yes, because I'm a nurse and I really am
That's
pushing.
going through a legislative process right now.
Oh, good.
So we hope that will be successful and be able to offer.
I
bachelor's.
want this really bad. We are low on nurses.
Well, we should talk later, so
Okay, all right.
we want it to.
Okay.
Yes. So the next building that was the second to be completed is the Holden Industrial Technology Center. And it's on our Oregon City campus, and it was completed in 2018. It also received an $8 million match from the state, and it increases mightily our teaching, training, and partner space, as well as creating flexibility to meet training needs of some industrial partners in the area. There are large bays for machinery with classrooms and offices, and there's an option to add another building to the east as the college grows. And it also houses our industrial tech programs like manufacturing and CNC machining, as well as renewable energy. The project included a redesign of the adjacent parking lot as well as a new entry plaza to the campus, which is nice. So you can come, when you come in from that direction, it's much more inviting. And improved pedestrian access and connecting path, walking path to Oregon City High School. And this is a Malala connection. The building is named after longtime college and career technical education supporters Terry and Cheryl Holden. And they have a long history in connection with CCC in the community. And Cheryl grew up in Estacada and Terry grew up in Malala. So we're honored to call them friends of the college. And they've been supporting tech in high schools and colleges for a long time. So that's cool. So, yeah. And the makerspace that is there, the Les Diasas makerspace for Benchmade knives. We donated, or I guess, the whole building with this, or anyway, we've named it after him because of his.
Yeah, he helped
support
us
of the
design the
college.
building, and then when he passed, his employees and the company actually gave us quite a sizable donation, so we named the makerspace after he started his company in his garage, and so we wanted to honor and have this makerspace where somebody else theoretically could start a company, on site here. So it's a way to honor Les.
So it's a space where is part in the Holden Industrial Center, but it's where students and community members have access to the tools they need to create prototypes and models and masterpieces. And after they get proper training when they first come in, so it's not just you throw them onto a CNC machine or anything like that. But you get training when you come in, and participants can use the equipment, and it ranges from woodworking, metalworking, basic woodworking machinery, 3D printing, CNC milling, laser cutting. And it includes woodworking and construction, traditional metalworking and sheet metal, and welding and cutting station, digital manufacturing, electronics, and sewing. And it is open to the public to to the public from 5 to 9 on Fridays. So anybody who's interested to go and learn about how to do this, or go and have a space where they can do it, they can. And this is, I think it is the first of its kind in the county. So we're pleased about that. And the Jardin Hall, this was an addition to our existing science facility, which is the Jardin Hall. And that had been there for 35 years, and it was a complex that was outdated, and it contributed to class overcrowding and long wait lists for students to get courses that they needed, which was a challenge for a lot of, doesn't help you progress quickly. So this project doubled the college's chemistry lab capacity, accommodating an additional 250 students a year. And it reduces class size and waiting lists. And the new labs expose students to modern scientific work environments that are similar to what they find when they transfer to a university. The building serves students in physics, chemistry, biology, environmental science, water environmental technology, and more. So a part of this project, I don't know that you can see it from these pictures, but we used funds from Connect Oregon and ODOT grants. We built a new transit center on the campus. So I don't know if you remember what it was like before, but it was a very crowded kind of circle that people came in. Well, now it's a much better opportunity for TriMet and other buses that I think the ones that come from Malala and other places to work there. And we also have a shared use path that connects the transit center to the Oregon City High School. There are some of the labs there. The one on the left, one of them is a lab prep room, and the other one is one of the regular labs for students. And this is cool too. It also has passive learning opportunities where you just can't help but learn about things. And the one that isn't the outside the brick wall. Well, I'll tell you about the brick wall first. That is the DNA sequence of a cougar
which is our mascot.
which is our mascot. So that was so carefully put
Should have
in.
seen the
when they put in the
masons
brooks.
laying those bricks in, trying to get that right.
Wow.
It's something to watch.
Yeah,
I never would have guessed.
yes.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, you can.
Focus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought I was having problems focusing too. Okay.
Intentional.
The DNA. all right.
Yeah, and on the left there is the lobby, which is a bird and duck display. Beautiful, beautiful stuffed birds and ducks and of all kinds. And then also a replica of a hanging down there of a baby beluga whale, which is suspended from the ceiling. And a lot of other educational displays inside and outside the building. And that one also has great places for students to learn and be where they want to be. So Tim, you can jump onto this one.
So because we opened the Holden Industrial Technology Center, we were able to expand our automotive department labs. And so we have two different automotive programs. We have the collision side, which are, you know, when you get in a car wreck, they're the ones pounding out fenders and repainting the cars. And then we've got the technician side. And prior to this expansion, they were all crammed into this one space that you see on here on this picture, which you can't tell now, but it was pretty dark and pretty cramped in. And the paint booths actually had to be located outside across the parking lot. So you can imagine in Oregon weather, you've done this great job, you prepped this car, and now you have to drive across the rain and try to get it to painted the rest. It was not good at all. So now we're able to have all the technician side in here, and you can see just down both sides, those are huge bay doors where cars come in and they can get lifted and worked on it. What you don't see in this picture, because this was taken right about the time we finished it, but most of those now are sponsored by a local car dealership. And so students in the automotive program get connected and get internships with, whether it's Decana, whether it's Ron Tonkin or one of those, and they get the uniform right off the bat. They're getting real world experience, and we're of course getting some support for their tools and some of the equipment that we have in that building. And then across the parking lot now is the collision side, which has the paint booths inside and all of the other right inside of that. So really fantastic hands-on space that mimics the work that they would do in a car dealership. And these are jobs that we can't train them fast enough as they're getting swept up and getting really high-paying jobs as they move on out.
What kind of pay are they getting?
It depends sometimes how high tech it is, but we know ones that go off and work at some of the luxury car dealers, you're starting out at over $100,000 a year as 2-year technicians.
100,000?
Oh yeah, over that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then we're as there's more electric vehicles coming in, we're starting now to train in battery technology and electric technology, so they have those jobs as well. Our Wachino Welcome Center was our last major project, and this changed the way we serve our students and greet people. This building now serves as our front door of the college. And so if you were to drive in off of 213, as you come up 213 and pull in, this would be the first building that you would see. Prior to this, there wasn't really a front door, and we found that visitors were coming to about 5 different buildings trying to figure out where to go. And people were getting lost and couldn't figure that out. So this building was really designed to pull people in and be the hub. And so it has traditional student services like advising and counseling and financial aid. And we created spaces where students can have their questions answered in just one setting rather than being bounced around the campus. It connects to our community center, which was also given a facelift. That community center was built in the 80s. And so we kind of brightened that space up and made that look nice as well. That has our student government offices, our disability resource center, multicultural center, vet center, also more study spots, and then our Cougar Cafe or cafeteria. If you've ever visited our community center, if you've ever been on our campus, you've probably been there and you probably wouldn't recognize it now as you walk in. It's a much lighter, brighter, more welcoming. When we were planning this building, we really knew that we wanted to honor the indigenous tribes whose homelands the college campus resides on. That campus sits on the Clackamas, where the Clackamas people were. So we met with the tribal council of the Grand Ronde and asked them what would be a respectful name for this center to honor the Clackamas people. We thought they'd give us like a Chinook name for welcome or something like that. And they said, the best way to honor us would be to name the building after Chief Wachino. He was their last chief that signed the treaty that actually moved them off their land and onto the Grand Ron Drive, which was a surprise to us. We thought that might not be a very honorable, and that's some of the feedback we got. But they were very clear that Chief Wachino was a really honored member of their tribe, and so we did. We took their advice and named it, and they came and did a really nice ceremony for us, blessed the building and spoke and talked about the history of the place and of Chief Wachino. And so we're just really proud of that space and of that partnership that we have with the Grand Ron Tribe.
And can I mention something here? One of the
Sure.
things that we have is our Veterans Center.
Mhm.
And we had a presentation at one of our last board meetings from the head of that center. Amazing place, and it's one of the best in the country. And
Yeah, we consistently rank in the top 5, at least top 5, not top 6 colleges in the country for services to veterans. And we're really proud of that as well. Veterans and their families, actually.
the families do.
So you see here in the larger picture, actually, this is from the doors as you walk in. You can see this big welcome desk. And the whole secret sauce here is as you walk in and walk up and ask for help, regardless of what question you have, somebody will come meet you. And so that person will triage, and whether it's a financial aid question or you need to talk to a counselor or get some other advice or something like that, they will come out and meet with you. If they need to meet with you privately, right behind there, we've got some private conference rooms. We've got open computer spaces to get people on there. But it's probably the busiest place on campus now. As people are coming in and really getting activities. So it really worked the way we hoped it would be designed. In the to the right, I'm pointing at the screen like you can see where I'm pointing, but to the right there, you can see a person sitting at kind of a kiosk there, and then there's this kind of lighter wood on the walls there. That's actually from our bleachers from our gym. When we redid our gym, we kept the wood and reclaimed that on there, which is kind of a nice feature too. And they sanded out all the times people carved in their names on there. You can't see it.
And when we were designing this too, it was it's one stop, and we have heard several stories over the times I've been on the board about how people were in their car, and it was just such a deal. Do I even do this? Am I even ready for college? And so they finally, yes, I am. But then to find out where they needed to go was always a challenge. There were so many little blocks around the way that could have turned them right around and they would have left. But this is truly a welcome center, and it gives me the goosebumps right now. Thinking about it, but yeah, it's great.
It's really important to be welcoming. We know from students that sometimes it takes them several tries to work up the courage to come. And so to have a place where somebody greets you as you walk in and says, how can we help you figure this out? It's pretty important for attention and make sure they're successful. Some more pictures of it, really light and bright and welcoming. One of the nice surprises we found on the second floor, which we didn't even realize until we were building it, there's this view of Mount Hood, which was like, wow, that's really nice. So there's this little student sitting space, and you can just, on nice days when we have those, you can see Mount Hood. And then in May of just this last May, we were able to renovate the first floor of what we call Roger Recall. And this is where all of our student services used to be, like registration and advising and counseling and all that. And when those vacated to go into Wachino, we had this open floor space here. And so what we're able to create now is what we call kind of a community space, a community outreach space. So we moved our executive offices, we moved our foundation, we created a diversity and equity office in that space. And we also created a really large community room, which is serves as our boardroom, but we really look at it as a community space that anybody can come and use and meet. And there it seats, I think it's about 150. Katie would know. My assistant Katie, who was from Olalas here, but Katie would know because she really helped create all this. But it divides up into a couple of rooms. This has been a really nice space. We actually have only been in it for a couple of months now, about a month now. That we've been in it. So. Beyond the buildings, we're able to do a number of really important things that maybe not be as exciting, but were important to the college. We were able to upgrade our elevators. We were able to upgrade our locker rooms. There was an extension of Myers Road put in between 213 and Beaver Creek Road, which gave us a third entrance to the college. Our stormwater, we fixed roofs. We created new signage across the campus. If you've been on, it really helps you find where you need to go a lot easier. And we made a bunch of safety and security upgrades to the campus as well. This is fairly interesting. Part of our bond projects, we established some workforce goals that involve students and one in using local businesses. And we love acronyms. You probably do too, but I think education loves acronyms. But our SAIL program stands for Student Applied Integrated Learning. And this one encouraged architects and contractors to involve our students in the work wherever possible. So this included internships, mentorships, job shadows, site visits, field trips, anything that students could get hands-on experience and really see the construction process and the contract work in process. So our goal was to get 1,000 hours of student access to these. And we ended up with over double that, to about nearly 2,000 hours of that work. And actually, a couple of our interns that started out as interns ended up getting jobs, full-time jobs with the construction site. So that was pretty exciting too. Our BOAT program stands for Business Opportunities Achievement Target. And this encouraged employment opportunities across Clackamas County to residents and minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses, as well as emerging small businesses. So here we're asking contractors and subcontractors to prioritize using these women-owned, small business, veteran-owned businesses when they were hiring subcontractors. And our goal is to get 10% of all of our construction costs done by these small businesses. And we ended up with about 30%. We're going to throw a party, and you're invited. Community is our middle name at the college, and we really love it when people come to our campuses and really participate. And in this case, this summer in August, we're throwing a big community celebration, free food, lots of games, and short classes you can take. Some music, big trucks for kids to play on, and ability to see the whole building. So hopefully you'll be able to come by and visit us at that time. And that, I think, is the formal presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions. We do invite you. I extend invitations, and I would extend it to you as well. I love showing off the campus. If you're ever coming by and you want to see it, I'm happy to show you around and show you some of the different facilities and some of the opportunities that we have at the college. But thank you again for allowing us to be here. Thank you for the partnership. I think our work is all very similar, trying to make sure that everybody here in Clackamas County, certainly Molalla, has quality tied to quality education, and so we're happy to partner with you.
Yes.
A couple of questions. Most of this was new build, it looks like, right? You had some renovations, but most of those big things were brand new
Brand new.
buildings and new spaces. 90 million to 136 million. So that $46 million came from awesome grants and other kinds of money that you found.
State
around the
matching
state.
funds, TriMet grants, some federal grants,
And the big question is, what was your message to the community when you sold the bond? What was the main message that people voted yes on?
That's a good question.
How'd you sell it?
It's before my time, so I'm going back and reflecting on some of the things I've read around that. I know that we were very focused on, we continue to be very focused on our career technical education and the ability to have workforce training. So that certainly the Industrial Technology Center was a big part of that. The ability to the Student Center as well, that message there for people to not only get to the college, but to be successful and complete. So there's that part as well as I've seen. I'm trying to think of how else, going back and look how we sold it.
Yeah, I know that I was there. I should be able to tell you. They all blend together. But I know one of the things that was a real focus was involving a lot of community discussion, talking to folks in the area, all kinds of people. And I think that helped a lot because we just, as board members, we went out to our zones and met with city chambers of commerce and library boards and regular school board and just mostly listened a lot to how they felt about that. And I think it built support as well as, because we were able to explain the why behind, concepts that we were looking at.
were you able to just attract the regular constituents that pay the taxes to come in? They're all good. It seems like we try to invite and then we don't get a huge turnout. So I'm just curious.
Well, we went out.
You went out.
You mean
Yeah.
we
Their
invited
homes,
in,
door
but
to
we also
door?
went out to different meetings.
Neighborhood
to-
associations,
okay.
certainly school boards, city councils, anybody I think that would have us. I mean, we were talking to the previous president, she said she put something like 25,000 miles in her car that year and anywhere and
That's good.
everywhere that they could go and talk. And then, had, postcards and things like that. Send out to people and mailers and whatnot. So and I will tell you, it's because I've reviewed it all. We're discussing the potential next bond now and going out. That bond in 2014 barely passed. It was pretty razor thin.
Okay.
So as we think about what we need to sell the next one, it's exactly what we're thinking about is what are people interested in. It's a challenge.
Anyone else? I do want to thank you for all your equipment that you let us have for our manufacturing department.
Yeah.
I don't know how much money that is, but that sure has made a difference for us in our schools. I just, I think it's wonderful. You have any, yeah,
If I may, President Cook's relationship as a member of the education community across the county is, I think in some counties, maybe higher education might see itself separate from K-12 education. That's not the case for President Cook. He sits with all the superintendents. The partnership that he's talking about is genuine. Our relationship, again, I remember having conversations with President Cook in his office when this was all moving forward. And on the front end of our partnership with the Holdens and the Burkharts, who funded all of the renovation in our manufacturing lab. Those partnerships, those relationships mean something when people have confidence in what's going to happen as a result. And I just really appreciate his partnership and leadership. I think great things are ahead for the county.
Yeah.
I've been pushing for a certified nursing aid program here. So, yeah, just to get started, because I kind of started that way to become a nurse.
Mhm.
Yeah, huge. I mean, it really made a difference in my life.
Well, and then those classes that articulate, so kids here can get them while they're in high school and come out of high school and save money and time. And we know that they're more likely to graduate, from high
Absolutely.
school and from college if they have those opportunities.
Yeah.
The Holdens are really just great thinkers that way. Their whole point was that kids in Molalla and Estacada have opportunities that every other kid has.
They should have all the opportunity we can give them.
And so, so we of course agree with that. And so that's why it's great to have that partnership there.
Yes.
And they donated a lot of equipment, but they support a lot of scholarship and funding for students to be able to go and continue. Very generous.
Really appreciate you coming out and talking to us.
I appreciate you having us.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay. Budget committee members. These are action item. Oh, just a second. Any changes to the agenda? Anyone? Okay, seeing no changes to the agenda, I'm going to action items, budget committee members. We have two of them. Anybody want to go ahead and present them as you've read?
Briefly, if
Yeah,
I
here we
may,
are.
Chair Eskridge and directors, the board, as you see in the information packet posted or declared the two positions open, I believe a month and a half, 2 months ago. We advertised widely. Mr. Hanson, who served on your budget committee before, has applied and have his materials, as well as Zoe Conley, who is here. Both of them are here this evening. And the information that you have been presented was requested of them as well leading up to the meeting. So they
Yeah.
prepared that for your consideration.
Would you like to come up and say hi to us? Zoe, and then Hanson, Mr. Hanson, come up next. Okay.
My name is Zoe Conley. And I am a relatively new member to the Molalla community. I moved here last July, and I am a small business owner and have a background in business and finance, and I want to get involved in my community. And so I thought this would be a good way to engage and hopefully bring some of my skills with budgets and finance and join in.
I appreciate it. You applying for this, you know you're gonna get this. Okay. Sorry, I didn't say
There's only one seat, so we have to pick one.
that. Only one seat? Oh, no, there's more than that. Yes, okay. Gotta shut my mouth. I'm frightened. I put it in there. Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay, where did you move from?
Ridgefield, Washington,
Okay.
not too far.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, Mr. Hanson, come on up. Thank you so much, Zoe. All right. You had me in a quandary there, Craig.
First off, let me say, I'm not out to set any records since this would be my 6th term in the last 25 years if I get appointed, which sounds like I'm being railroaded. Let me just say,
Can I railroad you?
I have been
You
a
know you
very
like-
strong supporter of education all my life. I had a talk with Lori at a basketball game one night and I told her, if you get short of budget members or something like that, give me a call. I got the call last week. That's why my application is done writtenly, if you see it there. I just didn't have a time to sit down on a computer and do it, but tried to do that. And I only answered, how long have I lived in the district? All my life, because I didn't want to give out my age.
We gotta keep those
So-
secrets.
So, Madam Chair, Larry, are you willing to be chair again?
Well, I think I've done it all but 2 years.
Yeah.
And I wasn't bragging because I know I was trained in Robert's Rules of Order and Parliamentary Procedure, so I have no problem assuming a position like that again, a couple of chairman, whatever we're gonna do.
Referee for basketball.
Yeah, just.
That's what I see, yeah.
Yeah, I have. In fact, I'm gonna say I did about 100 ball games this year
Yeah.
through the state OSAA. And there's about 6 games I remember. 2 of them I remember very well was I got a call to come down here and do the unified games, the special needs kids.
Yeah.
And those 2 games were probably some of the funnest games I've done.
Yeah.
And that even beat the one I did at the Motor Center this year. I got the pleasure of working
Wow.
out there one time this
great.
year, so. But they great kids and I taught school too, so it's always fun to do those things. Any questions?
Welcome back, Larry.
Well,
Welcome back, that's all
I
we're
live on a
saying.
dairy
Welcome
farm,
back.
so I'm not afraid to get down and get dirty. So,
All right.
Okay.
We're
We
willing
appreciate
to
it.
Get you dirty. Okay. I need a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve both applications.
Good. It's been moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right arm. Okay, it's unanimous. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Oh,
6.
Linda.
And okay,
You guys say any opposed?
any opposed? Any
We learned
opposed?
that, yeah.
Seeing none, okay, it's unanimous. We went through the Roberts rules again, and we're just, trying to do it right. Okay. Next. Personnel report.
Madam Chair, I
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any remarks or questions? Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you to all the people that are retiring and leaving their positions, because I know it's not an easy job and some of them have been in those positions for a long time. So
It's hard retiring.
so
Okay,
a big thank you to them.
yes, I totally agree. Any
Madam
other?
Chairman, I forgot to disclose, I do have a relatively busy employee of the district. Teacher.
Okay. That's not gonna stop us. Okay. All right. So all those in. God, now I can't even talk. Okay, all those that approve of the personnel report, raise your right arm. Okay. And all those that are opposed to this? Nothing? Okay, it's unanimous. Now, the next one, approval of the March 9th and March 23rd meeting minutes.
March 23rd meeting.
It's been seconded, been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, raise your right arm. Okay, it's 6. All those opposed? None, so it passes. Okay, now for the school calendar. recommendation for adoption. Tony Mann, you want to say something about that?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Before you this evening is version D of the 23-24 school year calendar. You'll recall that you had versions A, B, and C as a first review a month ago. And during the month between those two meetings, our HR director Jennifer Ellis and I have shared this with both of our association leadership, classified and our licensed employees. We've also shared it with all employees. As it's been posted on the board materials, we've solicited their feedback and we incorporated as much of that feedback as we possibly could based on organizing time around our primary purpose, teaching and learning, and being aligned with both of our employment group contracts. This calendar does so. And I'm just pleased to, highlight a couple of things. It doesn't happen every year. Sometimes it's a coincidence related to, when the month, what day of the month the year starts on. But the marking periods each it's very balanced at 58, 58, and 57 days on the trimesters. We've stayed with the district tradition of not beginning school until after Labor Day to ensure that those students who are participating in county fair activities have the opportunity to do that before school starts. If there are any questions that you have in particular about the structure, I'll be glad to respond. But again, I'm confident that our employees had a chance to give us input both through association, if I can finish my sentence, association leadership, but also individually. We've taken that in and incorporated it into version D, which we present for your consideration and approval this evening, if it matches your pleasure.
Any comments, questions?
Can I ask a question before I ask the
Yes.
motion? Ask a question before the motion. Just more a comment than a question. It's like, if I'm reading this correctly, September 1st, the Friday before Labor Day, is a day off for the staff.
And that has been the
It's
case.
non-contracted.
It's a non-contract day and has been structured that way as long as I've been in the district. The number of contract days in the association, in the Teachers Association contract fit in this calendar nicely. And you'll notice there are a couple of spots where we strategically do place those non-contract days. We felt it was really important to have a full solid week of teacher training up front, not split it across 2 weeks. There was space for 4 days. We either place it Tuesday through Friday or Monday through Thursday. And we've traditionally placed it Monday through Thursday.
Their families a chance to have a nice long weekend.
Yeah.
4-day weekend.
And then just to clarify, the 5th of September is the first day of school. Is that for all grades or just certain grades?
That is the first day of school for K-5, grade 6 and grade 9. Just by way of those transition years being so critical for students, having 6th graders attend school on their own by themselves and be oriented to that campus is, as a middle school principal myself, part of the recipe of success on a 6th grader start to the school year, and freshmen as well. Our kindergartners come on 2 different days for some initial assessment, since many of them may not have been in a structured school setting yet. Gives us a chance to meet them and to have them smiled at by adults and greeted with warm voices, and then they come in all together on that 3rd day. Did I say kindergarten? That's what I meant. Kindergarten.
Yeah.
Cut off, and that's why I didn't see that. Now I see it. So anyway, thank you, Tony.
And this version of the calendar, if I may, is intended to reflect alignment with the employee contracts. This is not the version of the calendar that we publish for the public because it's not necessarily parent friendly. It doesn't say, for example, kindergartners on this day, A, B. That's communicated on a separate family calendar. We've always done it that way.
Chair, I move that we approve 23-24 version D staff calendar.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve version D calendar, the 23-24 calendar for the school, for the Mall River School calendar, excuse me. I didn't say it right. Okay. To approve the 23-24 version D school calendar. All those in favor, raise your right arm. Okay. All those opposed? It has passed unanimously. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I mean, I can just walk off, but I wondered if we could just take like a 3-minute break.
Yeah.
For a quick bathroom
We're gonna take a little break. Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
go ahead. You bet. Okay.
Get this.
Starting the meeting. Next is information and discussion, and I'm gonna ask Dr. Dale Kuykendall and Cassie Hibbert to come up and present Winnahaw Group presentation for facilities assessment.
Hi,
good evening.
They're on virtually here this
Virtual,
evening,
okay,
so
great.
Hi, good evening. Cassie Hibbert with Winnahaw Group. My colleague Dale couldn't join us tonight due to a previous commitment, so it's just be me tonight.
Okay,
Am I okay to go ahead and share screen here?
oh, yeah.
Looks like I am, okay. Hey, can everyone see that okay and hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, well, excellent. Very good to see you all again. I really enjoyed your the Clackamas Community College presentation earlier, very inspirational. So for tonight, we're here to just give you a brief update on where we are in the pre-bond process, since we are here. And then the main purpose of tonight is to go through a high-level executive summary of the results of your facility assessment, which takes a snapshot of your existing facility condition. So here are the things that we'll take a look at. Quick status on the process, a recap of our Community Bond Advisory Committee work to date. Then we'll dive into the facility assessment. And then one thing I'd like to share with the board at the end is something that we also shared with the CBAC last week, which is just some pros and cons for considering replacement versus remodel of buildings. So we'll go ahead and dive into it here. So just as a reminder on where we are as a part of this overall process, tonight basically concludes phase one, the facilities assessment portion of the process. So this is gathering information and data on your existing buildings. We've been running that a little bit concurrent and kind of jumping into phase two, which is the long range facilities planning with the Community Bond Advisory Committee. They received the presentation that you are receiving tonight last week, and so are informed on this as well. And what we consider this to be is part of our shared information. We're building a shared knowledge base for the Community Bond Advisory Committee to then start prioritizing and looking at different projects that the district may consider for capital improvements. So just to kind of take a peek at where we'll go as we get into phase two, we'll be seeing the Community Bond Advisory Committee again in May for taking a look at, we call it the financial meeting, taking a look at how district funds operations and maintenance for capital improvements in buildings, potential bond amounts, bond structure, learning how general obligation bonds work, as well as starting to take a look at some of the capacity considerations within the district. And then when we see the committee in June, that's when they're going to start crafting their recommendation for facilities improvements in the district. And then we'll plan to come back to you, the board, in August to report back on a draft recommendation. Followed by a community feedback period, September through November. And then we'll take that community feedback and then bring that back to the community committee for a final recommendation, which will then come back to the board in December and January. Okay. So moving on to our next slide, just a quick update on what the work is that we've done to date. So the Community Bond Advisory Committee has learned about roles and responsibilities of the pre-bond team. We set ground rules for the committee. We adopted the committee charge. We reviewed the overall pre-bond process. We learned about how the OSSEM grant, the Oregon School Capital Improvement Matching Grant, works. We discussed community hopes and fears about the bond. We learned how polling is used as a tool to help support decision-making. We toured the facilities and we discussed our impressions of the facilities both before and after those tours. And we learned about safety and security issues and progress the district has made with the athletics facilities over the past few years. We've done a lot. We listened to admin, teacher, and student reports on your middle school facility. We reviewed the facility assessment executive summary, and then finally we learned about the pros and cons for replacement versus remodel of the buildings. And just as a reminder, because I forgot to mention this earlier, we do have 3 of our board members that are serving as liaisons to the Community Bond Advisory Committees. That would be Linda, Mitch, and Neil. And thank you again for your continued volunteer efforts. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to an overview of the facility assessment report. So these are slightly text-heavy slides here to start off with. So on our executive summary, the facilities assessment team for the district was made up of myself, my colleague Dale, who you've met, and then one of our other colleagues, Luke, and that made up the Winnahaw group team. Brick Architects is serving as our architecture subject matter expert on the assessment. And then Interface Engineering is serving as our mechanical and electrical subject matter expert. We did site visits on March 8th through 10th and March 17th with assistance from the maintenance team. A big thanks to Tony and Lance for their time and support for this effort. We met with principals from every school. We also did an informal Q&A session with middle school staff. And then we also had a phone call with your former technology director to understand technology needs in the district. The buildings that we assessed were kind of your main buildings. The district actually has an awful lot of buildings. A lot of them are kind of smaller and a lot of support buildings, as it were. But the ones that we did the full assessment, the full Oregon Department of Education assessment on were Clark's, Molalla Elementary, Molalla High School, and the Natural Resource Center Land Lab main building. We didn't do the greenhouses or the pig pens and all of that. Molalla River Middle School, Malino, and Rural Dell. So next thing I want to touch on is what the facilities assessment measures and what it does and what it doesn't do, because I think these are very important for understanding how this works. So the facility assessment is quantitative data. It's intended to be a snapshot of your current building condition. And the way that that works is it does it via a line item assessment of discrete building systems. So there's a line item for roof and you rate the roof. And there's a line item for wall finishes and you rate the wall finishes. The way this Oregon Department of Education tool works is that it measures deficiencies in the building systems. So if you have something that's brand new, you mark it no deficiency. And then if it has deficiencies, you mark it as such based upon a percentage model. I won't go into any of that tonight, but I just want to kind of understand how that line item system works. And then very, very important in this assessment is that we're going out there and we're looking for deficiencies in your buildings. But, and I want to be very clear on this, this is not a reflection of your staff's effort, time, care, commitment that they invest into your school buildings, usually with limited resources. We honor that commitment, and this report is in no way a reflection of your staff's effort. Next, one of the things the facilities assessment does not do is it doesn't include information regarding enrollment or facility capacity or potential program expansion. We do those in the long-range facility planning process, so that next phase that we're moving into. Another thing the assessment does not do is it doesn't prioritize projects. So everything is equal in the assessment. And we really believe that that's the role of your community committee, is to put priorities to that. The next thing that the tool does do is it provides a standardized data to ODE to inform an overall picture of school facilities condition. So ODE is trying to gather all this data to really understand statewide what are their condition challenges and to help have discussions about how funding systems can work to support that. And then finally, I like to call this a tool. It's not the tool, it's a tool to inform the district's decision-making and planning. Okay, next up, we're going to learn a couple of terms that will help us interpret the results. So the first term is replacement budget. So this would be the cost to replace your current square footage with a new building of the exact same square footage based on 2020 cost estimates. So just to explain this, this would be if you have a 60,000 square foot building, it would be the cost to build a new 60,000 square foot building. This metric, we also on the next page, I have another term for it because Winnaha was concerned that we have some old costing in this. So we've actually built in a new metric for this that would give you a potential replacement cost for targeted construction in 2025 to give you an idea of what you might actually be looking at. So I'll get to that next. Okay, next term is the physical condition budget total. This is the cost to bring your existing systems up to original condition. This doesn't introduce new systems like ventilation or safety or security upgrades or change how you're using your building space or add space, any of those, right? And the way I like to describe this is if your building is a Studebaker, to use a car analogy, this metric is going to give you a brand new Studebaker. It's not going to buy you a Tesla, if that makes sense. Next one is the facility condition index. And this is simply those two terms I just went through earlier, your physical condition budget total divided by your replacement budget. And on this will give you basically a percentage that you can see here in the color codes. So if your percentage is less than 5%, per ODE's suggestion, that would be rated as good condition. 6 to 10% would be fair condition, 11 to 30% would be poor condition, and 31 to 50% would be critical. The way to use this as a potential decision-making tool is, and this is also kind of coming from ODE, is that anything that is greater than 31% is the threshold for starting to have discussions about maybe replacing. It doesn't say you must replace, doesn't say you must do anything. It says, hey, at this point, you might want to consider. And there's a lot of other things that go into that. It doesn't take into consideration significant historic preservation or community valued architectural requirements. And then simply, there's a lot of communities that just are not able to even bond the amount of a full building replacement, especially when you look at smaller school districts, rural school districts. And so even if they did have an FCI that was higher just due to bonding capacity, they may not even be able to have that as an option on the table. Okay, move on. So the next term here, or last term, is the replacement budget for construction starting 2025. This is a metric that Winnaha has created to help give you another data point. And the reason why we did this is because when this tool was created, it was kind of pre-COVID, and a lot of things changed in COVID, especially in the construction industry, and we've experienced a lot of escalation and changes. And so in this metric, what we're doing is Winnaha has recently went through and evaluated comparison projects or comps from other Willamette Valley schools that are, the ones we used were Bethel, Corvallis, and Westland, Wilsonville, all of which were built and constructed very recently. And so then we put a escalation factor on those for a 2025 bid date and took the average of those items, which would be about $689 a square foot. And that's to give you an idea of what potential new construction might be for a bid date in 2025. So here, and not to get too super into the weeds, but when we look at, I'm going to go back a slide here. When we look at the facility condition index, we're comparing your physical condition budget total, which is based upon some kind of older numbers, with your replacement budget, which is based upon some older numbers, because we wanted to keep those apples to apples. So really what you're looking at with those is more your ratio than the numbers themselves. And then with the new metric for construction in 25, that gives you kind of an indication of replacement value. Okay, then I have a couple of cautions just to finish this out. With some of these costs, we like to think of this I had explained that the way this tool works is sort of on a line item by line item assessment basis. And as we all know, whenever you're doing a construction project, it's very rare that you're able to just kind of hit one line item. So let's take, for example, at your middle school where you have your piping failing underneath the concrete slab. The assessment tool is going to tell you the cost to replace the piping, right? But to get to the piping, you've got to abate your asbestos flooring, and then you've got to excavate into the slab. And then once you get down there, then you can replace the flooring, and then you got to pour it back, and then you got to do new flooring, right? And so all of these really need to be evaluated holistically for potential projects, rather than saying, okay, you know, this line item is the definitive answer for how much this would cost. So hopefully that example makes sense. And that's also why I like to describe this as a tool in decision-making. When the committee is considering potential projects later, we'll look at some specific ideas, and then we'll go out and do cost estimating and put some real actual numbers to that. So we're talking about real accurate dollars for decision making. Okay, with all of those kind of intro and getting up to speed on terms, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of your individual schools. And these are actually just in alphabetical order, so no order of priority. So the first one that we'll do here is Clark's. And what you can see on here is up at the top, I have a chart that summarizes those terms that we just went through. And then below, we just have text that are the assessment team's general observations on some of your very high level challenges of those schools. This list here is not intended to be exhaustive. The official report has many more items in this, but to not make this a 2-hour long discussion, I'm just hitting some high points here. Okay, so to take a look at Clark's, you can see construction date, 1952 with additions in 74, 86, and 90. You will find this very characteristic of your schools in the district, that they have multiple additions over multiple construction dates, which makes them very complicated. Clark's is about 33,000 square feet. You can see the replacement budget in here, the physical condition budget total, but what I really want to point you to is the facility condition index of 34% on this one. And I'll just go back to our little chart here to refresh. So that would put us kind of in the red zone here of critical. Okay, and then a replacement budget, if you were to build a 33,000 square foot building all brand new in 2025, would be about $23 million. That, oh, I should pause here and say that number is inclusive, it's full project costs. So your construction costs, your soft costs, like your architect and your permitting fees and your project management and all that, and owner's contingency as well. Okay, at Clark's, just to hit some of our high level challenges there. So the first thing I want to highlight here is that you received a seismic grant for Clark's back in 2020. And that was a great investment into the district. And that really not only seismically upgraded the building, but allowed for some updates to your main entry, your west wing, and some of your roof areas. In addition to that, you've got bus and parent drop-off pickup overlap. They happen in the same area. That's a safety concern. You've got a significant amount of roofing area that is panelized metal roofing that is failing. You've got accessibility or ADA issues throughout your entire building. Safety security issues as well, though your new secure front entry vestibule has helped with that a lot. Your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing is operating at or beyond its service life. You'll find that a common theme in almost every building in the district. And then finally, lack of ventilation in some of the classrooms in the building. Hey, moving on to Malala Elementary School. This one actually only has one construction date, 1981, and is very consistent throughout. It has a facility condition index of 17% and a replacement budget of $35 million. Some of the high level things at Malala Elementary are bus and parent drop off and pickup overlap. Buses kind of come up in the bus loop to the front entry, and you have people walking between them to get to the parking lot. You've got some roof areas here that are failing. Safety and security issues, especially with your unfenced south side of the property that backs up to the track and kind of that wooded area. Again, mechanical, electrical, original to the building, functioning adequately for now, but operating at or beyond its service life. One of the particular challenges at MES is that your cafeteria, your kitchen, and your gymnasium are undersized for your current student enrollment. So if there were ever any interest in expanding or adding on here, you need to reevaluate those core spaces. And then finally, your running track, technically part of the MES property, is significantly degraded and not suitable for use. Hey, moving on to Malala High School. So these are broken out into two, the high school itself, and then the Natural Resource Center Land Lab, which is just the main metal building, with a facility condition index of 9% and 6% respectively. Even though these are some of your newer buildings in the district, they are still more than 20 years old, and some portions of the high school even older than that. Their biggest challenges is that, again, we have the same panelized metal roof system that is failing. We've got safety and security issues, particularly with the front entry of the high school that opens up directly into your commons. And then finally, again, your mechanical, electrical is original to each respective wing's construction and at or beyond its service life. Next up, Malala River Middle School. This one, you can see all the different additions in the construction date. This one has a facility condition index of 52%, with a potential replacement budget of $62 million. And that would again be for the current square footage, the 91,000 square feet. As we all know, the middle school has plenty of challenges, safety and security issues with kids moving in between separate buildings, and lack of visibility of the main office to the front entry. Your window glass block acts as a thermal conductor, heating and cooling spaces beyond what the system can provide. Your steam system is operating well beyond its life expectancy, with nearly complete lack of control and comfort, and it started to fail catastrophically. In fact, on this one, our mechanical engineer was so concerned about it in our assessment walkthrough that we started talking with the district about some potential emergency contingency planning in case your system does fail, especially during a wintertime event. The plan of the district right now is to keep that thing running as long as they possibly can, but we thought it would be prudent to actually start talking about some backup plans there. Your utility transformer room is in an extremely hazardous location right next to your boiler room. Your steel distribution piping is actively failing and leaking under the building slab. Plumbing fixtures are also failing, as well as the sanitary sewer failing under the building slab. To compound that problem, much of the building has asbestos floor tile, which adds to the complexity of resolving any issues under the slab. From a more curriculum standpoint, your staff in the building have tried to integrate STEAM programs, but are stymied by limitations in the building, such as electrical outlets, only being able to use Instapots in, the home ec room. And then finally, your cafeteria and your gyms are undersized for the student population. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to Malino. Malino, as we all know, has a north building and a south building with a road in between it, which is a particular challenge for that campus. The north building rated in at a 52% FCI and the south building at a 55% FCI. Part of the reason why the south building is greater is because it has the big parking lot in the campus and a very small square footage. So the parking lot is kind of throwing that number a little bit. Malino has safety and security issues, especially with passage between those two buildings. It's got the same panelized metal roof that is failing. We observed some water infiltration into your CMU structure and siding on the north side of the building, kind of where the cafeteria area is. And then again, it's also got the glass block in some of the original building that acts as the thermal conductor, similar to what's going on at the middle school. I've actually got a second page for this one. Similar theme with mechanical and electrical equipment operating well or beyond service life. At this point, only 60% of the radiators are functional in the building. This is also with piping and fixtures, a similar problem to what you have at the middle school, where they are run beneath the slab and they've started to fail and collapse beneath the slab. Fixtures are also breaking, not repairable to age and lack of replacement components. And then the septic system is piping to the leach field is also failing. Your electrical switchgear and main panels have exceeded their life expectancy. The equipment is obsolete, difficult to find replacement parts, and there are some safety concerns with that equipment. And similar to the middle school, much of your main building has asbestos floor tile, adding to the complexity of getting at problems underneath that slab. Okay, here is the last one. So Rural Dell. Rural Dell, again, has a north and a south building and a covered play area. We did not assess the historic 1925 wood structure. We actually weren't able to get into that building. So that is excluded from this. It clocks in with a facility condition index of 40%. And so some of Rural Dell's concerns are safety and security issues, again, kids passing between the buildings. Bus and parent drop off, pickup overlap, not quite as severe as at some of your other outlying schools. Rural Dell is on Highway 211 with the intersection with Dryland Road. Even though we do have a school speed zone there, that can be somewhat concerning given the traffic speeds on that highway. Also ADA issues here. Rural Dell is a little bit better than the others regarding its mechanical system. Its heating and cooling units are distributed that allow for individual replacement in the building, so not a centralized system. The current water well at Rural Dell has been known to run dry during the summer. The district is currently working on plans to replace that. Water and sanitary sewer piping is functioning adequately, but is operating at or beyond lifespan, and kind of same picture with the electrical equipment. Okay, so to go ahead and kind of roll these all up into some total numbers. So the total replacement budget, again, this is sort of the slightly outdated cost for the FCA, is about $247 million for replacement of all schools in the district. If we look at that with a the Winnaha metric of the replacement budget for construction in 2025, that number is around 307 million. And then your total physical condition budget total. So this is just the summary of all the deficiencies in the district is about 64 million. That number I would consider to be low because of the holistic approach that I talked about earlier, needing to kind of get to other things in order to get to problems. So I wouldn't come away from this thinking, oh, we could solve all the problems in the district for 64 million, because that number is not really reflective of kind of a true real world condition improvement. And then finally, kind of my last item on here is this does exclude some of the minor outbuildings in the district, as well as your athletic facilities that are not, that would be like your softball fields at the high school or Heckard Field. Those were not included in the assessment because the district had a very good athletic facility assessment done separately a few years ago. Okay, my next slide is to talk about replacement versus remodel pros and cons, but I think at this point, before I jump into that one, I will pause for a second because I've been talking a lot and open it up to the board for questions. So I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Want to make a comment, ask questions? Mitch?
Cassie, if we're just looking at the red zone schools, which is Clark's, the middle school, Worldale, and Malino, 121 million, right?
I'll trust that you did the math on that one.
I did it last week, and I did it again today, just to make sure it wasn't crazy, and it's 121 million for those four.
With the elementaries?
Yeah, the ones that were in the red zones, Clark's, middle school, Worldale, and Malino.
Okay.
Yep, and keep in mind that number is to replace the exact same square footage that you have now. So it wouldn't take into consideration any capacity or new programs or, you know, in a lot of schools you have cafetorium, nasiums, right? Like you have a lot of combined functions that could benefit from some expansion.
It's a, no, it's a gym and cafeteria.
Yes, cafegimatorium.
A brand new word we learned.
Community spaces. Community spaces, yeah. Madam Chair, a question. So what you mean also is that those dollar figures don't include any kind of technological upgrades like improved wiring, those kinds of things for computer information technology that the schools may not have yet.
Correct.
Thank you.
Terry, you want to say anything? Maybe. Neil, what about Mark? I haven't heard anything from Mark.
No, I'm good. Thank you, Linda.
You good? Okay. All right. Well, I guess we're all good with this report. So far. I mean, there's not a whole lot we can do to change it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, okay, well then I'll go ahead and move on to touch on replacement versus remodel. So this is some information that we shared with your Community Bond Advisory Committee, and I thought this would also be useful to talk through with the board, since, you know, when you have existing buildings, these are inevitably questions that come up. So the pros and cons are kind of combined here, but let's talk through the replacement side here. So the most common form of school replacement is something that we call the flip-flop. So it's basically you build your new building either next to your old building or somewhere else. It could work either way. And then once you get your new building done, your students and your staff pack up and they move to the new building, and then you demo your old building. So that would be the flip-flop. So when you do a replacement like that, your new building can be designed to modern educational standards. Of course, it'll be designed to modern energy code, fire code, ADA accessibility. One of the big benefits is you don't have any legacy problems from your existing buildings, so you're starting over fresh. When you build new, you also have a shorter and a simpler construction schedule. as opposed to a renovation where you would do phasing. Your students and your staff can remain in their existing building until it's time to move to their new building. That is a lot less disruptive and it makes things a lot simpler. And then finally, if you have hazardous material in your buildings, which you do in almost all of your buildings, I would say with the exception of the high school, it's much easier to deal with hazardous material when you're in a demolition situation than it is to kind of go in and surgically remove things as part of a remodel. Okay, now looking at remodel, which sometimes in the industry we also call modernization. Remodels tend to be desired when your building has significant historic value or community value, or it has unique architectural features. When you do a remodel, for the most part, your design is constrained by your existing footprint. So it's going to preserve your existing site inefficiencies. You can rectify that a little bit, but you're basically kind of stuck with your existing footprint. So if you're choosing that, your building location on your site should already function pretty well, or is in something that can be modified minorly to fix some problems there. When you do a remodel, you have to relocate your staff and your students during construction. There's a cost to that. They've got to go somewhere. Oftentimes, especially if you have phasing, you would have construction be very close to students. That can create noisy and disruptive conditions, and it requires a lot of student and staff patience. The other flip side of having to relocate staff and students is that the more phases you have in a project, right? If you're trying to relocate less, the longer your schedule is and the increased costs that you have in a project. But some pros is there is a perceived value and stewardship attached to remodeling rather than demoing and building new. It does tend to be a little less expensive, but you've got a lot of trade-offs here as well. I would say a lot of times, most of the time, when you do a significant remodel of the building, you then are at that point required to meet new energy code, fire code, and ADA in those buildings. It would be considered a substantial remodel. One other challenge with remodels is there's a super high potential for unanticipated conditions and unknowns that usually requires a much greater contingency than you would have in a new building. Your design and your project management costs are greater due to your increased complexity on the remodel. But when you're all done, if you are doing a substantial remodel, you will have a modern learning environment for your building once remodeled. So we wanted to share that with you as well as the Community Bond Advisory Committee, because as we start moving into our next stages here, we'll be wrestling with some of these kinds of questions when it comes to decisions and recommendation regarding your schools. So I'm afraid I've been a little doom and gloom tonight on my reporting, but I wanted to end this and just say I was so appreciative, and I'll speak for myself and the rest of the people that were on the assessment team, for just the hospitality of your staff, just the openness of your maintenance staff. They work so hard, and we met so many of your admin teachers that are so passionate about the work that they do. And we just felt very, very warmly welcomed in Molalla, and I've really enjoyed working with you so far. So thank you so much. And I'll just turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Cassie. I appreciate your report. You were saying earlier, it's going to cost us more money to keep trying to repair all the problems that we're getting in the middle school than if we replaced it, or tell us a little bit about that.
We need to run the numbers on, I would say, a remodel versus a replacement on the middle school. But your middle school has some significant challenges with it, particularly all of your underslab piping and the footprint of the school, the way you have different buildings separate from each other that have kids passing between all those buildings, and the condition of those buildings that I think would be significant downsides to a remodel. But that is something for your community bond advisory committee to wrestle with.
Any other comments or questions if anyone wants to pose? Cassie, Mitch?
Cassie, you had said that all the athletic facilities had been done recently, so you didn't have to go do that. Do we have access to that data? Can we get that report from whenever it was done?
Yeah, I'll defer to the superintendent on that one.
The report, I think, was highlighted from an overview standpoint when athletic directors, former athletic director Rott and our current athletic director Pat Davis presented to the CBAC committee last week. It was a high-level overview. That document you're welcome to have. And it is assessed both from a safety perspective from our liability provider OSBA PACE, but also from the perspective of player experience and fan experience. So 3 different angles are included in that report.
Well, look at the new Dawn report. That was a real eye opener about the safeties of all of our schools. It was a real scary thing. Go ahead, Craig.
Madam Chair, I just want to make a couple of comments. One of them occurred to me, and I hate to even bring this up while she was talking, and that was about safety and security around the high school. I'm going to harken back to a recent school shooting where it didn't matter how hardened that school was. All that individual did was walk up to the door with her AK-47, bust out the glass and walk in. And she was able, and when I say bust it out, she didn't pound it with her fist. She just shot a hole in it, the glass shattered, and that was it. So I feel, I mean, you can only harden things so much, I guess. I don't know what to do about that. Obviously, we've got to do more. But you know, we also have to temper our expectations a little bit too, because I'm sure there's a limit on what schools can do. You can't stop everything. And in that regard, about tempering expectations, I think it's important not to, I don't want to be the black cloud, but the reality is these people from Clackamas Community College who just presented here talked about raising something like $90 million. Granted, it was 9 years ago, but if you remember our last bond, I don't remember what the exact figure was. It was substantially south of 90 million. If you're talking about trying to raise even 240 million, I don't think that's going to fly with any of the voters. Well, I mean, you know, there's a certain number of people that would vote for it, but it's not going to pass. It's not even going to come close to passing. So I think it's important for the members of our various committees to be very careful and prudent about prioritizing the needs of the district and tempering their expectations. Because if you think we're going to replace 4 schools and put in $240 million worth of improvements, that's not going to happen.
That's cool. At least
Yeah,
look
no.
at that.
I'm just trying to pour a little dose of reality on things.
Okay. All right. Jennifer Ellis, you're up. Thank you, Cassie. I appreciate
Thank
your
you very
report.
much.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, you too. You're gonna report on employee exit interview surveys.
Yes, I'm going to give you a little update
Okay.
on what I do when we have an inclement weather day,
Oh, okay.
which was very quiet at my kitchen table because I couldn't make it into the office. And so I pulled out something that I've been wanting to do as part of my strategic planning for quite a long time.
Okay.
And you have a copy of the survey there.
Yes.
This is for us to strengthen our ongoing efforts to recruit and hire and retain the very best people that we can here in our district. And it has categories there for you to look at about our salary and our benefits, the work that the people do, and then our district, the schools, the departments, their immediate supervisors, the cabinet and the superintendent, and different subject matters such as communication, the opportunities they had while they were here, recognition, resources, and their relationships. And so the plan is to start this spring with putting this survey out. It will be, sometimes we'll do it in person. We won't be able to interview every single person that leaves in a personal interview, but we will do our best to do as many of those as we can. And when we can't do that, we'll have a Google survey that we'll send out. And then the plan is to compile these results annually, not by person unless someone has specific feedback that they would like to be known. We will just present results in a compiled format to both the admin team and here to the board. And so that we can make some improvements as we go. And then my hope also is to maybe edit this a little bit in the not too distant future, once we've finalized our mission vision work, to have it be in alignment with that work too. So we might add a few questions or change a couple categories to make sure we're in alignment with that work that we're doing.
It's nice that we have this now. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know, Amy,
Yes.
you had inquired not too long ago about how this work was coming, and so.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
I think it's not always easy to say to your HR person as you're leaving. So to have it on paper and maybe be after the fact, it'll give the district a little more information on what they can improve on and what issues.
Yes, and in my prior district, we found that people were more apt to answer it after they left, to reply to the Google survey and send it in.
Yeah.
So we'll keep that in mind and get personal email addresses as people are leaving.
That would be good. Yeah, Neil.
I just appreciate how comprehensive it was. With the other two.
Thank you.
Mitch.
In place now? Do we have?
No, we don't
Anything
have
historically,
anything in
nothing.
place right now.
So we had
So
no
this'll-
exit.
No, so this will be
That's
new
phenomenal.
for us.
This is great. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any questions I can answer?
I don't have any. I think you did a real thorough job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you. so much. Facilities and deferred maintenance, that'd be Tony Tiano.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Just a couple things, try to make it simple and short.
Okay.
Spring break, of course, happened here a couple weeks ago. A few things got accomplished. One of them, obviously, you can see with the photos on the facility report, parking lots. We kind of a tough challenge when you have school in session every day to try to get that window. We were kind of hoping to do it during Christmas break, but the vacation time, weather, we wind up getting it done this spring break. If you look at Worldell, you'll notice the standing water. After that, it kind of goes to my next. We're dealing with standing water all over the district with, obviously, everybody knows about the weather. We've had to cancel True Green a couple times. Who does a lot of our weed feed, fertilizing around the fields. We just can't put a machine in any of the fields. The delay in our painting of our track. We did get the high school track clean. 2 days of 65 degree, 2 or 3 days of 65-degree weather to actually repaint that track, the numbers, striping. So that's actually been quite a bit of a delay. Same thing with our football pole replacement. We have that on the list. 4 poles that need to be replaced at our convenience. 60,000-pound truck, our track, with the no drainage that we have on our football field. So reached out to a company, even Osmos. They do epoxy injecting into poles to give the poles longer life. I kind of refer it as like a filling, if you have some decay in your tooth, you pull the tooth or can you fill it and keep that tooth going a little bit longer. So with that, I'd like to kind of piggyback on what Cassie said about backup heat for the middle school. I contacted a company called Polygon. I met with them last week. We toured the building, showed them the boiler rooms, the layout, what is on rooftop units, the office, 6th grade wing we do not have to do. To give you an update, he was putting a plan together for us. This is temporary. He said it's usually when they put temporary heating into a building. It's generally like anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. And so it's very expensive. He's going to look at propane, get us to sit outside.
talking about, raising ductwork down hallways. To me, it almost just sounds like an absolute nightmare, but we would have a plan together in case something catastrophically happens to those buildings. So that is actually in the works as we speak. So I'm sure all to get that plan put together. But he was so excited to come out. Like I said, I gave him a map of the building. He said he will just give us a full breakdown on the map of the plan, because that is what they do. So, other than that, I could probably talk about all the drain problems and stuff that we're having with stuff getting shut down toilets, but I don't know. Find some pretty interesting stuff. You guys would absolutely shake your head.
I'll just take one.
Briefly, I think this piece that Tony's talking about in terms of that assessment on heating and failure, that links back, probably caught it, but I just want to emphasize, it links back to the Winahog report that if our heating system fails at the middle school catastrophically, having a backup plan to ensure that we can do school is critical. And so I appreciate Tony's forward thinking in this and bringing in, someone to talk with us about what that would look like and sound like. Knock on wood, I hope we don't have to be there.
Sure.
But to have a plan.
Right.
You're right.
Exactly. And I think it was a question to me also is, what's your plan? What's your plan if something happens? And I don't have a plan. I felt because I have to get those boilers fixed no matter what. Another 1954, another run off steam. In my mind, if something breaks, you have to fix it. It's catastrophic, you still have to fix it. And so that's kind of where my thinking was, but it was so helpful to just put it in my mind, hey, we need to have a plan. So secure, at least we have something. So, once that plan gets presented to me, I'll present to the board.
Neil has a question.
My question is around something that Cassie referred to in that she's plumbing leaking under the buildings in the present tense. And I'm just gonna ask you, do you know of any, but then I'm also gonna ask, do we have a system at all that allows us to pressure test the lines to?
I know what you're saying, yeah. So I have no knowledge of anything leaking under any slide. There's absolutely, to my knowledge, there's nothing leaking under any slide. A lot of times we can tell by the water bill, if it's the lineup, parts close we can. But yeah, so what was your second question.
Question is if we have any devices or way installed to
Yes.
allow us to close at the meter and pressure test our system to
There is,
see if
there's
there's.
actually the company I deal with a couple times now at the middle school is American Leak Detection. They do nitrogen tests, they put that in, and so it's amazing they found the leak underneath the asphalt at the middle school courtyard in the back there. So there was a leak there. That's the second leak we had found. And I was amazed at the technology, what they could do. And he actually pinpointed exactly where that leak was. So I cut it out, patched it. So yeah, if there's something leaking.
Okay.
Got it. Great.
Yeah, right.
How complicated would it be, Tony, to either fix or replace the closer on the door of the men's room down the hallway?
A new one.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do.
I'm not trying to throw
is-
them under the bus or
Yeah,
anything.
no, we put self-closing hinges on that, so it would stay open all the time. We took that bar off. The mechanic on that thing was so hard for some folks to get in and to get out, and to get in and to get out. So we had actually unplugged it and put spring-loaded hinges on there to get the door closed. So yeah, it's.
Does anybody notice besides
Big
me that when
rubber
you
bump
open
at
it,
the
all you hear is bam, when that thing flies open?
Yeah.
I'm
sure it's just.
Can't please
About
them all.
scared me out of my pants when I was in the bathroom tonight, and I just heard that door slam when somebody went out.
Yeah. And those spring-loaded hinges, they have little pins in there, and I go up there, if that little pin comes out, I can actually get it to where it'll go.
Yeah, just more extra of an opening motion.
You spend less time with the rest of it.
And if I may, I really absolutely appreciate that. I actually, before that hinge got solved, it's like, there was a moment when in the men's room where the whole thing broke and I couldn't get out.
Oh, no.
And I bring it up with a little bit of levity, while at the same time I recognize that Tony and Lance are running literally 3 times a day to our middle school to fix boiler problems. So, you know, it's prioritizing, and I'm not like Craig, if you're concerned, because I'd have the same concern. I was certainly concerned when I was locked in.
I'm a little worried about the door and the tile, maybe door breaking, tile breaking. whatever.
Well, that's kind of like talking about the drain problems, we're, and I don't know if it's a TikTok deal. We're finding people taking off paper towel dispensers. Yesterday, some tried to pull off the drinking fountain off the wall at the middle school. So we have plumbing leaks. So, it's a couple bad kids. We found 2 days ago, a fireball bottle that was wedged standing up. So, yeah, so kids are kids and,
Yeah.
but yeah, getting back
Destructive.
to the running and stuff. But yeah, Craig, it's
What do you mean? They do fireball at
We
home.
got good kids.
Around.
So we got good kids. It just there's. Yeah, absolutely. We have to. I mean, we had, the whole, in the new league, Boys and Girls Restaurant shut down, for 2 days until we could actually. Get the calls.
Do you think there's 3 of you, right, on the maintenance? 2. 2. Is that sufficient?
Tony and I are sitting down, looking at his staffing level and the roles and responsibilities across that department. We're scheduled for Monday at the time. Monday, Tuesday. And there may be some staffing adjustments as a result of that. I think it's a question of, how much can we throw at the issues, and 2 guys is never going to be enough.
I'll tell you, we do a good job.
Just wondering if you feel like you need some additional support.
I'm happy. Okay, good enough. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate everything you do. Okay, finance review. Keith.
My report is pretty straightforward, pretty simple this month. A few key takeaways from that first paragraph is we're set up really well for next year's budget. We're currently running out of surplus right now. Surplus is a result of our increased enrollment that I kind of discussed in the past few months, and then also personnel shortages or vacancies. And so we haven't really been able to spend that money. The result is about $1 million surplus going into the budget season next year. For this season. So onto that second paragraph, kind of discusses the budget process. We're still kind of in full swing. Right now, that I have a forecasted deficit of about $2.9 million, and that's keeping the current service level and also adding some teachers this year. So yeah, with that, one other thing to note is we're not forecasting any enrollment increases, simply because we just don't have a concrete data point yet to kind of determine. The worst thing I can do is say that we're going to have 100 students and 50 show up. I want to be able to tell you it's 50 so that I can deliver you a good guy when it's 100. So that's the reason for kind of the conservative nature in the revenue forecast. I will say, though, that the governor's budget is higher this year. And so it is resulting in a higher allotment or allocation per student. And so in addition to the revenue we got this year, that allocation increased for next year. And so assuming the same enrollment, it means about $200,000. So the other thing to note here is we're currently going through negotiations, and they've been pretty steep so far in terms of increases. And so that deficit that I'm projecting includes all of that as an assumption. So correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So also, right now, we're forecasting a few FTE increases around some of those increases where the enrollment has increased. But yeah, that's it.
All right, I'm happy. Yeah, just go ahead.
It's better to answer
Yeah.
this question for me. It's finance related in the sense that it's about the budget committee. When is the budget committee planning to have its first meeting?
March 10th. Or excuse me.
May
May
10th.
May
right?
10th,
May
okay.
10th, okay.
And when is the time by which the budget must be adopted by the board?
Law, June 30th. But we're gonna do it. June 8th is when we're.
Okay. Or how many budget committee meetings will we have in May?
I have 3 scheduled, but 2 is historically all that we've ever needed. But I scheduled a 3rd just in case. It's easier to delete it than it is to add it. So, yeah, I don't anticipate needing it, but if we do, it's there.
Okay. Do you have a date for the second one?
The second meeting, the 24th.
Any other questions? Mark? No? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Keith. Appreciate it. Okay. And next, teaching and learning report. I don't see Kathleen. Oh,
It's Robin.
okay, it's Robin. Well, teaching and learning report, but I got supported education. Okay.
Good evening.
Hi.
Yeah, I think my report was pretty straightforward as well. I think the things that I would just point out is that we're busy getting ready to meet our families and our students who are coming from the early childhood special education program that Clackamas ESD runs on our behalf. So we will be meeting families and meeting students and getting our kindergartners ready for the fall.
Okay.
And we're also planning for summer. We run an ESY program, extended school year program, alongside the summer school program that Kathleen runs for teaching and learning. And we have one more year providing recovery services this summer. So this will be the last year providing recovery services. And then working to hire a full staff for next year. So trying to steal really good people from other districts. Kidding.
Who you stealing
Do what you
it
gotta
from?
do.
I mean, it's true. So, any questions?
Was the learning specialist at Malina, was that just recently filled?
Yes, and I filled that position with a contractor. She's wonderful, and so we're hoping that we can keep her. But yes, we just filled it. So we never fully staffed the high school, but everything else. For special education schools.
Anyone else?
For teacher availability, is it just
I'm-
as bad this next year as last year?
I'm optimistic. I mean, I'm optimistic too, because other districts are having to, have a little bit of a leaner go, and we don't. The news on the street though is sort of, statewide, there's not enough people in schools, so there's not enough people graduating. I think that's probably for several years to come.
For a while, there we were having real problems with speech therapy. Are we not having that problem now? Or
Well, we're really fortunate. I hired a very strong contractor. Of course, we want to hire our own people, right? And we get in these relationships with contractors. You always want your own people, even though the contractor's fantastic. So, right now we're fully staffed for our speech and language pathology, but that does include some online services that are excellent service providers, but that's not everyone's first choice is online services. Next year, we anticipate needing one full-time SLP, but if we don't get one, I believe we will still be fully staffed. Through contractors, and through strong ones.
Okay.
And again, not ideal, but
at least
also
it's
not
something.
starting with the deficit.
Appreciate it, Rob.
Yeah.
Anyone else? No? Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, superintendent's report. Tony.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Directors, just a couple timely things to report on, piggybacking on the financial report. The good news for our district is we are projecting stable enrollment. This year, we saw an enrollment uptick while the rest of the state largely saw an enrollment decrease. Put that together with our conservative financial approaches to date, we're not in a layoff situation. Many of our surrounding districts will be in a layoff situation. It goes back to that recruitment and retain process. We expect we're going to be able to hire from a larger pool maybe than we've been able to hire from in the past. So that's just a quick side note. It didn't come up earlier tonight. I forgot to check in with board leadership about having just a standing update for the full board on the mission vision steering committee work that's happening. So I'll comment on that here briefly. The last committee meeting was robust and lots of energy, and I think we've got 20 or so community members engaged in a really energetic process. I know Director McNeil, Director Luke were part of that process. And I don't know if they want to speak to it later at board comment, but I know that our last meeting, that steering committee is upcoming. And I just really think that's promising work. I appreciate the board's leadership in making that a priority this year. Couple last more comments. I know that Colton is moving a bond before their voters here this May. I talked with their superintendent earlier this week and I saw their flyer. Wish them well in their work with kids. And then finally, bond or no bond, facilities or no facilities, any kind of challenges we have, I always like to end on a high note. So I have a little bit of good news that I'd like to share with you. And I'm actually not going to be the one to share it. I did tell Dr. Atherton that I was going to text him because he's chiming in from home. He appeared on screen and he's in Hawaii, it looks like. Dr. Atherton was not able to be here in person tonight.
Wow, is he in Hawaii?
No, he's got the virtual background.
I'm in my son's room, and this is a much safer background.
Oh, I love it. I want that background.
So I asked Dr. Atherton to join me in my superintendent's report to just share a really, I think, a special piece from our school district here this week. And I won't preface it any more than that. David, did you need me to share my screen or are you going to share your screen?
I think I'm hoping, let's see here, desktop one. I think we're going. Is it working? No, it doesn't want to. Thought I had this going.
Okay. I'd be happy to, as long as you just.
Yeah, if you want to, and we'll just kind of, I think the first part here, and then I'll, we're not going to necessarily talk about each one, I think, as we go.
So would you like me to just sort of scan through the slides as you're talking?
If you could, Tony, that would be great. Thank
I'll
you.
let you preface it and then I'll start moving through the slides too.
So thank you, board chair, directors, appreciate flexibility as well tonight. Allow me to do a little bit of virtual here. We had something happen at the school on Wednesday that was just a really great experience. And really what happened here is several months ago, our career and college coordinator, Bonnie Spurl, said, "Oh, by the way, I want to do a career fair." Okay, yeah, let me know what you need. And about a week ago, she came up and she's like, "Okay, well, I need some tables. We've got about 45 people. We got to redo the schedule, and I'm going to need to present to the staff." And I'm like, "Okay, wait a minute. I should be paying more attention to this." And what happened on Wednesday? If you want to skip to the next slide here, Tony. We set this up so students came in the morning, and then first and second period, we had freshmen and sophomores. They first went to the auditorium. Juniors and seniors went to the gym where we had all of the local industry and partners in there. And the first session, the freshman and sophomore worked on that survey. Uh-oh, we going forward one there. They're going through this survey, or they're going through the mock interview preparation, talking about resumes, kind of getting some instruction. And then we switched that at an hour through. The juniors and seniors went to the auditorium, freshmen, sophomores came into the gym. We're going to follow that up. We've had some event reflections. We've had additional survey follow-ups. What do the students, professions they might have wished to see. We're going to continue those career activities through those homeroom as well. So as I said, we had about 45 vendors there, 750 students and staff. Everybody was full of awesomeness that day. It was a true kind of, it was like a carnival kind of feeling. Just everybody was smiling, everybody was engaged, happy. And then all this is because we have one Bonnie Spurl. And that's, if you get a chance to see her do anything, whatever she touches is pretty amazing. So we want to just run you through a couple pictures. Again, Director Graff, thank you for being there. You were able to make it. Anybody else I missed that day? We were running around, but Clackamas Community College was there talking with students about opportunities, enrollment, different programs. Then we also had a number of different armed forces. The U.S. Actually all were represented. The U.S. Air Force and the Space Force. We have U.S. Army. And again, a number of their recruiters just talked with students on a number of things. A lot of industry partners, National Association of Remodeling. We had electrical, number of things there, Clackamas Child Care Resources and referral. A lot of our students are taking those early childhood ed classes and trying to connect that. Remax Home Source was there, talking about real estate as well as just office jobs, those type of things, opportunities for kids. Local credit union, same type of thing. Each vendor had bling and candy and things for the kids. This was an example here, local nursery. We were able to connect with Danelle Blair. For some reason, those two had never connected. Now, all of a sudden, they're talking about how they can get interns in there and maybe have some of our graduating seniors starting with internships where they actually house and provide that training. As that was kind of an exciting connection to see the staff get. Knife River Construction, talking about opportunities there. Oregon, the Air National Guard again, and you can just see the clumps of kids kind of at each one of these tables. Express Employment Professionals, also local, had a great conversation with them. Northwest College for Construction. Had a large, Clackamas County 911, our law enforcement, others were there as well. So that was a great representation. Local apprenticeships. This was really popular with a lot of kids. There was just so many opportunities there and hearing those, how they can get in and get started in some of these careers. Molalla Fire Department. We had to keep them separated from the police so we didn't have a rematch on the basketball court. And then we had two officers from Molalla Police, but the chief and lieutenant came out as well. City Molalla was there, and again, connecting with teachers, talking about how they can do that. Quannex Corporations, the door and window manufacturing, talking with students again on apprenticeship opportunities. Marine Corps, we had a lot of push-ups, a lot of pull-ups that day. I&E Construction. Clackamas County Sheriff and Rescue. And then I guess City Mall again. So these are just a couple pictures that I snapped as we were going through. Here's your full vendors list. And for a start, we learned a couple things. First of all, connecting with our medical professions was challenging, as they're strapped in as well. as education, you know, in terms of being able to have people who can go out and do these things. But we're going to look at some other opportunities for next year and make sure that we have those representations. Some of our female students were asking some specific things like, hey, where's this career? What can we do with this? So we're going to take that in and make those invites. So we're hoping to grow this up into the upper gym next year, push those bleachers back, and continue to, you know, look at, you know, what the students are interested in and try to make sure that we have those connections so that, you know, as Bonnie's explained it, she wants every student leaving Molalla with a plan. They know their future, they know their next step, and they know that they can come back to her and get that support. Even if 3 years later, that plan for some reason takes a change and there's something else, she wants to expand that career center so that it's open to our alumni as well. And we keep being that resource to our community, keeping Molalla students in Molalla if possible.
That is so good to hear. Oh, man. I love it.
The energy was palpable in there on Wednesday. It really was.
Thanks, David, for
Great
sharing.
job.
I think it's the beginning of great things.
Yes.
Thank you much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, board comments. Mitch,
Think I'm good?
you're good?
Yeah.
Craig?
I'm afraid I have something.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, of
Go for it,
course.
Craig, I'm counting.
Of course. Yeah. So actually, I want to go back to something Jimmy said at the beginning of the meeting, and that was around the budget committee and input. And I just feel like it's important for not just our board, but our district to make sure that everybody out in the public, not just members of the budget committee, know that if they have ideas or proposals around improvements in our schools, and especially the budget, that they should communicate those to us at any time, and that our leadership ought to be open to at least considering them. I'm not saying that the leadership ought to do them, but also I'm not saying they shouldn't either. I mean, you know, we ought to consider anything that the public brings forward, and I feel like Jimmy Lanahan, anybody else on the budget committee, ought to feel like, you know, they can bring their ideas to the budget committee as well, right? Ideas, you know, what form that takes in terms of presentation. I know that there have been changes in the budget committee sort of process over the years. So historically, I don't know what it was like before 2012, but not long after you came here, Tony, I know you kind of played around, and Rick played around with some different ways and different numbers of times of meeting and educating the budget committee and board members on that process. And there were then more meetings than there are now that there have been over the last few years. So I guess all I want to say is, you know, it's important to take input. So if Jimmy's still out there listening, I personally would welcome hearing anything you have to say.
Yes.
And it goes for any other board member or budget committee member. And then lastly, yeah, I'm not really sure how to approach this subject. I'm going to try and be a little cryptic, but I think the right ears will hear it. With regard to the budget and programs, and especially facilities, I know there are some people in the community that have some ideas and things they would like to have done, especially around athletic facilities. And I would like the board to get more information about some of the ideas that are floating around out there, so that some of the comments that I've been hearing in the community, I can't certainly address them because I can't speak on behalf of the board of the district. How to bring that feedback back to the superintendent of the board. So that's.
I don't have a whole lot to say about school. I just know I went to a dog show this weekend and Danny got his second place ribbon 3 days in a row. The first 2 days, he was absolutely perfect. I thought for sure he's going to get his blue ribbon, but no. Then the third day, he sits his butt on the judge and he still got a second place. So I don't know how to consider his winnings. But He competed against 16 dogs, so he's pretty good. So that's all I have to say. Go ahead, Neil.
Well, I would think, I would speak on behalf of the board, but I guess for me personally, and I assume from all of us, is a big thank you to our career counselor, Bonnie, for her effort, her passion and her ideas to bring this forward. Supportive administration to sometimes let things happen. And so, again, I just want to thank those people for doing great things for our kids and, providing a little excitement, a little change in our high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Update for sports.
Yeah.
Okay. Last weekend, the boys track team placed 6 out of 18 teams at the Sandy Invitational. The girls placed 7, which is very good. I know our baseball team is off to an incredible start. I don't know about tennis, but I know the band competed today at the district over at Prineville, and the wind ensemble qualified for state.
Oh, good.
They have to submit a tape to be judged to find out what division they go into. But they had a really successful day, and all the band members were ecstatic about their performance. And so was Mr. Ferris. So that's great. Good energy in the spring.
So that's what you were doing in Prineville.
That's what I was doing. I have a senior that's graduated my last time.
Okay. Alrighty, upcoming meetings. Everybody else is done? Okay. Upcoming meetings, policy meeting, April 18th, that is virtual. Work session meeting, April 27th. And now I just need one motion to adjourn. Okay.
Second.
Okay, so move the seconded. All those in favor, raise your right arm. Ah, yes. Okay, all those opposed? And it passes unanimously. We're adjourned. Thank you.
All right,
for
thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
enduring. Yes. Thank you. We probably don't even need